And next we have Mr. Sanjay Singh, Head Games 24/7. Mr. Ashutosh Sharma, Director Engineering Myntra. I have a request to our moderator, N.K. Singh. So please, after the session, we will have a question and answer session. So I would like to request you to please take the best question, and we have a giveaway for that. We have two more panelists for this. So that is Mr. Navaneethan and M, VP Group CISO and DPO, TATAPlay. Yeah. Mr. Anil Nama, CIO, yeah, Datacenters and Cloud 4C. Yeah. Once again, I request for our moderator, Mr. N.K. Singh. Please, sir, right after the session, do have a question and answer session. Please also pick up the best question. We have a giveaway for the best question. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. Don't see the energy. Good afternoon. Yeah, great. Thank you. Thank you very much. And right now, we are having a very interesting topic. So, how enterprise look at the cloud and the co-location or other services or solutions which is available. We have been witnessing from last 20 years and how the enterprises and the technology has evolved, how their adaptation to the technology has gone for last 20 years today, where normally around 20 years back, the enterprises IT department was like a support function. Then they became enabler and then became driver. Now we are talking about IT function as a integrated part of business itself. So obviously, based on this entire journey, their the transformation on the technology or adoption of the technology by the enterprises, because they are the consumers of, consuming the technology for their use overall. So now, through this session, we have got panelists directly from enterprises who has been using this technology in day out. And we also have a panel from service provider side. So we will have a view from other perspective also, that like other side of the table. Now moving ahead with, in terms of, as I said, how this share or transformation has come. Because recently I was looking at a report where when I saw around 2010 or 2007 to 2010, the on-prem to the co-location share was around 90-10. So most of organization had their data center on-premise. And then around in 2019-20, when I was doing some kind of study, this was around near 50-50. So you can see how the transformation has, or adaptation on the on-premise, on co-location, on the other aspects which has happened. So I would like to go back to Navaneethan and ask him in terms of how do you see from the enterprise point of view, the adaptation of your cloud, colo, on-premise kind of thing, and where it is progressing?
Awesome. Very good morning, everyone, and thanks, NK. And really, it's interesting in the topic I can see. One is if you're going to the restaurant, what do you want to take? Whether you want to take a buffet or you want to take a la carte. That's what it is the topic today, right? Whether you want to take it as a ready-made solutions, like you can go and pick up whatever you wanted to have it, or you can order what you wanted to have it, right? You can customize. It's based on your need. So, moreover, from my, the overall journey, whatever things where we have gone through that, it's based on the customer needs, like what exactly they wanted to have it. If you take it 20 years before, as I rightly mentioned, like 20 years before, we were waiting for one server, minimum of, 60 days we have to place the order. It comes from the Singapore. If you take a Dell overall experience, it comes from the Singapore. When it comes over where we have a party, that level of environment we had it. But now it is absolutely, it's a fraction of a second. I can scale up in terms of the terabytes of speeds, and then I can bring down. That's what it is in your hand. So coming back to your questions, 50% of organizations where they wanted to scale up, on the quick manner. It's based on the organization context. They are getting to in terms of the cloud. But who are all already settled down in the cloud, they are taking the U-turn, how we can get data is on the data centers. Because the reason behind this, once a business is stagnant, once a business is set, this is what it is my IT architecture, this is what my application stack, this is what I'm going to do that. I'm stabilized. Then people are getting to the data centers. The reason behind this, once you stabilize, then cost is too high. Even though adaptability, all the things and all, it is too good in terms of the cloud, but in terms of the cost also, it's a bigger matter to run the operation. So that aspect, so the data centers play a very significant role. And second point is, usually we take the conference, right? If you take, people are talking about the cloud security, the major issue is security standpoint, because data is not in your hand, really where it is roaming. And maybe if you have the right to forward, maybe if you want to delete, but still we are not sure. They can issue the certificate saying that all the data has been deleted, but it's already replicated into the multiple regions, right? So really we are not sure where the data is lying. So some extent where we have to believe and then take it over, like how we onboard the flight, right? All the time we cannot verify the pilot, who is the pilot. We cannot check that, right? And then what is the airlines, whether the pilot has gone through the enough training, enough flying hours. Definitely not. We never going to. We look on that who is a service provider, take the tickets, and then go over there, right? That's a trust. Think about it. We are talking about data. The entire life is flying on the sky. But we had some extent trust. The trust, how we got the trust is absolutely through a lot of certifications and what are the demonstrations they have done it. So that aspect also, maybe the initial stage, we have to take a call on the cloud, how we are going to scale up and take it up. But however, on-prem will give an amazing hold on your data. What it is, it's based on the business nature. What do you want to roll out to the cloud, and then what do you want to take it up on your local infrastructure. And third point is, there is a governance also. Governance and then regulations also play a significant role, right? In terms of the banking and then financial sectors, really there is a requirement where we want to be in on-prem, where we didn't want to fly. But there is a number of reasons behind that, in terms of the compliance, in terms of data flow, and then in terms of the control on the data, what needs to be taken over there actually. That is also the three factors. But as I rightly mentioned, maybe as I conclude stuff on the first questions, most of the organizations going on the cloud on the scale one. Maybe today I'm starting the business because I want to scale up. I'm myself not aware what applications, what are things I wanted to scale up. But once it's settled down, then absolutely the right route is towards the data centers to make it up mutually from the organization as well as the overall data governance.
So, you have transformed from on-premise to co-location or the cloud already, or you have got on-premise also?
No, it's very interesting, right? I mean, I have done both. From the data center to the cloud, we have transformed, completely. Because we want to scale up in the different way, right? And then other way also for the couple of organizations where I worked, and then there really we have done a huge transformation from cloud to the data center also. See, that's of the main focus. What we have done is, it's wherever it is a maturity is done, then we have moved those things to our data centers. Still, we are not sure. There is a lot of ambiguity on the business, ambiguity on the scaling up, ambiguity on the applications. Then still, those things still lies with our data centers.
Thanks, Navaneet. Coming back to Sanjay. So, rather than deciding between cloud, co-location, or on-prem, so how do you decide to take that?
Yeah, so my view on that is, I think it is again based on what you're looking for. I mean, if you're looking for a lot of elasticity and your business demands where you may have a sudden surge in the demand, you may want to host those workloads in the cloud. But if your, say, setup is or workloads are so static in nature, you may want to have it maybe in on-prem, right, which could be cheaper option. But I think in my opinion, over a period, right, I mean, what we have seen the adoption going high in last 5 to 10 years, the cloud adoption is extremely high. And in my opinion, it's again getting transformed. I can give one analogy that, I mean, if you recall 20 years ago, buying a cell phone or using a cell phone used to be a luxury, right? And the cost, the reason was, hey, I don't want to buy because it's very expensive. But if you ask anyone that, hey, instead of mobile phone, do you want to use the landline? Because you can make a call and it is cheaper. And we are like, no, we don't use mobile phone for just making a call any longer. The ecosystem that I get that on my mobile phone, I have so many other things that I rely on. Similarly, I think in the cloud has transformed in such a way where you don't just go for the infrastructure. And infrastructure, in my opinion, it's a commodity now, right? So you don't use cloud or you don't move to cloud just for the infrastructure anymore, but rather the ecosystem that you get out of the cloud. But I think to answer your second question, whether what will happen to the on-prem setup or the colo location, I think they are also transforming. I mean, in my opinion, I think there are a lot of cloud providers coming to India or other parts of the world as well, where they want to use the rack space or the real estate of the data center providers, and they want to host it. And we become the consumer of cloud, but ultimately it is hosted out of the data center.
Great, Sanjay. Coming back to Anil, I think we would like to have service provider view on that. How customer requirements of co-location and clouds are shifting? What is that trend which you have seen?
Yeah, that's a great question. See, when you look at it from a data center perspective, and things have been changing. If you just look at the last 5 years, and if you look at customer segments, so we have customer segments of 10 rack and below, 10 to 100 racks, and greater than 100 racks. What has happened is, in the greater than 100 rack, there is a huge explosion, where the requirements are coming between 500 to 2500 racks, which means essentially 10 megawatt buildings are being leased. This is nothing but the cloud adoption that, as my esteemed panelist was saying, all of the new age enterprises or the businesses, they immediately latch on to the cloud. And that B2C demand then gets consolidated in these large hyperscale data center formats that come to us. From the enterprise side, if you see the greater than 50 rack or 30 racks earlier, all of them are ranging at 100 rack space now. So an erstwhile BFSI, an erstwhile insurance company, they are all increasing their footprint, which means there is also a fair play of the co-location or the private cloud. So in true sense, if you see overall in the market is going hybrid. We believe that this is because, as explained by the airplane example, I mean, either you can own an airplane or you don't own an airplane. Either you can own a car, you don't own a car. But airlines or a company like an Ola, etc., they allow an individual to get that experience of the car ride and use it for its means to reach the destination. Similarly, when you look at a cloud, it's an all converged infrastructure. No storage separate, no network separate, no integration to be put in place. And therefore, it is readily converged infrastructure that you used. At the same time, all workloads are not cloud ready. So therefore, those workloads which are there on-prem, they have also evolved into something which continues to grow. So from a data center side is the format which is changing. No longer smaller orders. You have mid and large orders, as well as the second trend is increasing density. So if we see CtrlS data centers 2008, 3 kilowatt contracts per rack. 2000, maybe 15, 16, 6 to 8 kilowatt contracts. As we speak now, 2020, 2023, people are talking 18 to 24 kilowatt per rack contracts. And what feelers we are getting is we may cross above 50 kilowatts per rack in the next 2 to 3 years. So the IT is shrinking because each machine is becoming that much more capable. It's just like our mobile, we had cameras, we had phones, we had everything. All of them converged into a mobile, and you have a device where you need not own everything. So similarly, with these new computes, new platforms coming in, you have a very large play out there of data center density, and that is what is driving today.
Thanks, Anil. So, Ashutosh, can your co-location supports multiple cloud environments, and how can co-location fits along with the cloud native architecture?
Yeah, so being a practitioner and so let's see this way, right? So we develop applications and we are on cloud. At the same time, we also build a layer of managing and maintaining these applications. And there has been a thought process that maintaining in a cloud agnostic way, right? Which doesn't happen. Now, this is a question which I think you started and Navaneethan and Sanjay took it up, right? So, and Anil also answered, hybrid cloud one, right? So, being a practitioner and user of various applications which our consumer or service or users want to use, right? What is my choice of it? And whether a cloud and co-location coexist. So what I see, right, over the period of many years throughout my career, starting from co-location to cloud and again, talking about going back. Cloud is not going to go away and co-location will not go away. Both have to coexist, and there are multiple examples which I can cite. We'll talk about the architecture part also. Even the cloud vendors, right? So what is cloud in the sense which makes easier for consumers like us to host our services, right? Where data center is more about capex, you plan much ahead of time and put money, and then there's a lot of different type of skill set definitely is required over there. But for a new organization just coming up, starting up, doing pilot POCs and things, right? Cloud is the best for them to go. Now, looking at it, how they can coexist, right? And they're complementing, in my opinion. So one of the example came from security and compliance. Definitely, when you talk about banks and finance sectors, still there is a lot of challenges for them to take a decision to move to cloud. But still, they are on the cloud, but what part of it, right? Let's say gaming industry, right? So for example, gaming industry is a low latency service where you want to interact with multiple gamers over internet and the delay cannot exist, right? In that scenario, your authentication and your billing and everything can be on the cloud, but at the same time, you can use co-location, which is near to your users and consumers. Same with the delivery of the content. We are talking the performance part, right? Same comes with the compliance and security. Your data is critical, which is US data. You cannot put it on cloud because you don't trust. You don't see the physically the data center. You don't see the logs over there on the cages and things, right? So you keep that thing over there, and the various APIs which doesn't need a lot of compliance requirements and you are not sure of it, you can still host it. Which are not very transactional ones, right? Which you don't do transactions in the banking system, right? Maybe support systems you can put it over there. Second, about the performance side, come back again, right? So we talk about the architecture part here. So how it is existing. Now we talk about CDNs, right? So most of the CDNs are co-located. They are not on the cloud. Whether you take Amazon, Azure, anything. And you cannot get rid of CDNs. They have to be there. Any application you derive in the SaaS platforms, CDN has to be there. And you see, all these big players on cloud, they have partnership with co-locations. They cannot exist themselves without co-location, right? So there are other aspects, right? Maybe depend on customers to customers. What is your requirement? Now, agnostic part, which I talked about, right? You don't want to, you are doing a business not for now, for future, for long run. And every year in today's market, you look your balance sheet and see the cost part of it, right? How it is going, how it is not. You should be in a position always that it is easier. It's easier to say that you can move out of one cloud to other cloud or data center to cloud or vice versa. It's very difficult to do. However, if you design your services accordingly, it is easier. I'm saying it's not difficult. It is relatively easier. That thing which you could have done maybe 5 years back in 1 year migration, now that migration may take 6 months these days, right? That is one. Other part of the architecture perspective, how both can complement each other is like services which are coming now these days, like we talk about ML, AI, right? Now, no customer are going to run these services by themselves, right? They want to use cloud services. They have their fundamental business on co-location, whatever it is, and they complement these cloud services by consuming from the cloud. And many times, with proper investigation, right, you can figure it out, your co-located data center is near to your cloud. And you can even go further and have a negotiation that the data coming in flow, which is chargeable usually outbound, you can negotiate and have it, right? A lot of people have done it, a lot of bigger organizations have done it, right? So again, they are existing together here. So I'd say that if you are just starting up, cloud is the best. When you grew up in mid-segment, like we are in e-commerce, right? We have also think about it, like, should we go or not? Because again, this is about the performance, cost, security, the multiple aspects which we have touched upon, right? And evaluate. So, in short, right, yeah, it's going to be a good partnership with having existing both places. And one thing which I didn't touch upon is the BCPDR we talk about, right? Now, this BCPDR usually is a low probability event, but cost is very high. That's why most of organizations which are critical domains like finance, banking, and even e-commerce, right? We need to have that thing. And co-location is a good partner over there, where we keep entire data backup in our servers and disk of arrays on the data center, and keep running our services over there. So I'm not touching the elasticity part is touched upon. We know, right? Data center cannot match the elasticity what we need time to time, because it's not consistent requirement throughout the year. But yeah, BCPDR or disaster recovery scenarios, right? They are good partnership when you are placed both locations, cloud versus the on-premises.
Okay, thanks Ashutosh. Now, Samarth, you see where the industry is shifting, or typically enterprise is shifting around the cloud co-location, such kind of things. So whenever you're shifting as an organization and you are a lead technical delivery and operation center for a large multinational bank. So in that case, what is that impact, or what are the tweaking or changes you need to drive at the back end is in terms of the people, process and other aspects of it? Because suddenly if you are shifting from one thing to other, so what are the things, obviously you have to do certain those changes. So what are the things those, and how do you manage that?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. That question is very close to my heart, that whenever we move, we shift, we strategize, we talk a lot in terms of technology required, and the roadmaps don't talk as much about the impact on people. So as far as data center evolution is concerned, we all know that there's not much debate around it, that what's happening in the data center space. We had a time when there were physical data centers. Every time an application was required, a new box had to be purchased. Then it moved to virtualization. Virtualization got web enabled and got capsuled as private clouds initially. And then we had the public cloud players coming into the picture. So the journey is not very complicated. I mean, there's not much of chaos around what to do. Everybody knows what to do. And one thing, I mean, I think that's a great thing that really gets not talked about as much, is that how do we redefine the workforce? So let's say whenever you are moving to the next level of modernization in terms of your data center capability, people talk about workforce in two words is what we hear: resize the workforce or redefine the workforce. So there is kind of an inherent assumption that the roles will change. Now we have moved, let's say, from a physical data center completely to something which is virtualized, to something which is a hybrid. So some people will no longer be relevant, and we will have some new roles where new people will need to be hired, or some reskilling has to happen either way. But that is where, I would like to bring to the table here that what we should be talking about, especially in data center space from my experience, is to reshape the workforce. There is no need to think that the same workforce cannot participate in the journey of your data center evolution. I'll give an example. Back in 2001, 2002, I had a friend. We were in a data center of a large insurance company in US at Milwaukee near Chicago. And his job was basically, at that time, the data center was quite a physical data center, a lot of isolated boxes, a little bit of virtualization. Literally, his job was to go in the night and flick the switches off of the data center, switch off the lights. And also, some of the servers were actually powered down in the night because it was individual box running an individual application. It's an internal application, he'll switch it off. In the morning, he has to go back and switch them on. That was his job, most of the time. Now, around, I think it was 2006 or something, when there was a hard mandate that no physical servers, all hypervisors, all VMs, only virtual machines. And all of a sudden, VMs don't need to be powered down, right? VMs cannot be powered down, in fact. So this role, anyway, there was a large data center building, there was just one person, so there was no way to cut down this role, so the role was removed altogether. We said that there's no need now, because the mandate is to go to VMs. But very soon we started to face problems, because a lot of time hard boots were required. And now there is nobody who can actually go there and flick the switch off. And you cannot expect that you can direct somebody from remotely or tell somebody, because, letting someone flick switches in a data center is like, a surgeon's knife when you're on the table. Small mistake and it could be a disaster. So that is where, we realized that basically, so there was no need to let that role go off. Finally, people had to decide, bring such a role back at a much higher rate, you know, person came in and his role was again the same, to be sure that the right switches can be, you know, physically wherever there was a requirement to do a physical on-off, hard boots, etc., you can do it. But now, you know, they cannot go back, so they said it's additional physical security. In that name, they brought the person, but at the end of the day, he was doing that. Now, I was thinking through it, like, this could have been, you know, reshaped. So, because what happened when you had this virtualization through, there was a virtualization dashboard, which was prepared internally for the health of all VMs. Now, there was somebody required to monitor that dashboard. You know, initially, there were no automatic AI kind of monitoring the way AWS would provide or something. It was, somebody had to keep looking at that board. If you remember, there used to be a war room, and if there is a red light somewhere, some server is going down. So this same person could have easily performed that role, you know, but you took new people for that role and let that person go. So what I want the industry to, you know, the one word that I really want to come up in discussions is, how do we reshape the workforce? Because this is an area, data center evolution, where a lot of things have to evolve. You cannot just throw away the machines, right? Everybody tries to use the same metal hardware that they have. I haven't seen still, I mean, I might not be aware, where people have scrapped off their metal hardware thinking that, no, we don't need it. It's still there, and it's being used. So it's being repurposed.
But I have one question, because normally when we talk about IT refresh, so 3 to 5 years, so you don't throw your hardwares?
No. No, that's because that's what has happened.
So that means you are running inefficient system.
No. Why I would say, because the norms, you know, there are regulatory norms around the health of the hardware in every country. So, for example, in UK, we have a requirement of an yearly power down. So if an yearly power down is successful on a machine, that hardware is deemed to be a fit hardware to be used. So in that sense, a lot of hardware will continue, right? I mean, as long as, of course, I mean, there will be some kind of a decommissioning and some, you know, servers going out of
So this I would like to also know from other panelists' view on that. What you said, you know, scrapping the metal hardware instead of reusing it, right? So any other inputs? I would like to move to the next.
Yeah, that's the bottom line that I'm trying to say is that in data center evolution, technology gets repurposed, and we should extend that to the workforce as well. Try to repurpose the workforce. In this industry, there is a lot of information that's in the minds of people which is not very well documented. We should not really be looking at resizing or redefining, rather we should be looking at reshaping our workforce when we look at the data center evolution journey.
Thanks, Samarth. I am going back to Navaneet again. So you said the shifting of enterprises towards co-location cloud and other services which is available. So what are the key driving factor or influencers on these kind of decisions?
It's maybe, I can say straightforward two things. One is the cost, and second one is the context of those organizations, what we have it. And context of organizations, again, it comes to how operationally I can plug in, and then how I can extract the value of the cloud. So why I'm coming to cloud is absolutely the scalability, and then I have options, right? The people, we used to have crack the jokes. In enterprise, if you want to change one rule for the firewall, it takes months together. Within a day, in startup, we change the firewall itself. That's a simple logic. We do that. We don't go on multiple round. If it doesn't like, just take out and plug on other stuff. That's what it is, the magic of the cloud. And coming back to the this questions, if you see the cloud, in terms of the market potential, what it is, having close to 590 billion, right? It is huge, which is going on beyond that. And then, of course, the data center, we are reaching close to 200 plus, the billion. And comparison itself, it is larger in terms of adoptions and all the things and all. And just specific coming to the India, maybe I can pick up the unicorn alone, right? 108 unicorn we have in India, all cloud adopted, this organization. But just most of the CIOs, CISOs, they are in connect, and then close to 30 to 40% of people, they are moving from cloud to the data centers. Because it's been longer, right? Whatever they wanted to get things done, they have done, and now they are transforming towards the data center. So that aspect, scalability is done. What are the requirement I want? Now just I have to ensure that, in terms of the operation.
Scalability is the one factor.
Scalability and then cost. Scalability is the primary factors. Scalability and adoptions, wherever it is, I can start the business, right? I may not require any separate data center. Just plug in and then, we can take it forward. And third point is, really the SaaS product, whatever infra platform, of course, where we can adopt it. But SaaS is unavoidable, right? Whatever it is we are using, now we are part of the ecosystem, not as an enterprise, not as an organization. As an individual also, we started to consume a lot of SaaS application. So that's always continued to be there in the cloud. It won't get changes. But in terms of the platform as well as infra, absolutely it will take a U10. Once things materialize, and then we can move on that.
Thanks, Navaneethan. Sanjay, coming back to, so obviously this shift we are seeing, is it meeting your requirements? Is it meeting your expectations and objectives? And how, if you can be able to?
Yeah, so as I said, I think it is definitely meeting the requirement, right? Again, as I said, it depends what kind of business you have. I mean, I work for a gaming company where we see a sudden surge in demand, right? Whenever the event happens, it goes around 20x, 30x. Now imagine if we have to run from the data center, I'll have to plan for the capacity of, say, whatever capacity that we are running into 30x or 20x based on, whatever my requirement is. But then it is very short-lived, right? So one option is I can go to the data center, buy 50x of whatever capacity, and then stay there, which will be extremely costly, right? So I have, as I said, different point of view that the cloud is going to grow and the adoption is going to be much, much higher where it is currently. I think again, this is my view, that what I foresee is in a few years from now, there is going to be maybe an aggregator on top of multiple clouds that we have. I mean, today, when you go and talk to AWS, they may say, hey, we will give you a cheaper hardware because now I have my own chip called Graviton. You go to GCP and they say, okay, we are the inventor of Kubernetes, so our setup is much better compared to any other provider. You go to Microsoft and they may say, hey, if your workload depends on Microsoft technology, come to us because we are the best, right? Now, imagine if you have a combination of all these requirements, right? Now, will you spread your workloads across? Maybe no, right? Because again, why do you want to make your setup so complex? Now, so maybe, as I said, one aggregator where you submit your requirement that, okay, here is what I'm looking for, here is my budget, and you figure it out, right? Just like Uber or Ola or Make My Trip, where they're sitting on top of all these service providers, where you submit your requirement and you have the results.
So that is 100% in line with your expectations. So things are going all well. Great. Thanks. As you know, I'm from purely a data center and I do a lot of study and research around that. So what I have found, Anil, I'm coming back to you. When we talk about data center growth, majorly what we see, the hyperscale data center growth, and then we have got retail and wholesale kind of customers. And what we have observed is the major demand is driven by those hyperscalers, right? So how the enterprises are getting aligned to such kind of thing? Hyperscaler may not be direct, but even through somebody, how the enterprises are getting aligned to your data center on co-location or hyperscale side of it?
Yeah, so see, both will stay as expressed by my esteemed panelists. Our reference architecture should now start to include. So let's take a simple example of any of our enterprise. We had in-house DCs, then came the word BCP DR, We started with the DR. Then we said, yeah, fine, something is going to happen to my data because it is in my premises. We came up with the NDR. And this architecture of DC and then going to DR and NDR has sustained an enterprise growth through its maturity, be it a bank, be it anything. What clouds have taught us is that you require two availability zones in two different cities, interconnected, and all of them being live at the same time. And that's the beauty of the architecture of the cloud. And this same thing is getting adopted by the enterprises today. Now, there are various means to adopt it. Somebody's SAP may go to RISE and go inside cloud so that all its connected ecosystems, be it is e-way bill, be it is GSTN, be it is users, consumers, they are all residing on that platform, which are hyper-connected. Or maybe a bank like a UBI, we had news yesterday of the United Bank of India putting it up. Their web or mobile application comes in-house, but then they need to change the architecture away from one site working out of this DC, DR, NDR to 4 sites working concurrently. The impact on the data center is no data center provider, especially in India, makes multi-DC parks in a city. So it forces all of us data centers to collaborate. To collaborate in a sense because we know that every customer will use more than one DC provider. The second is it also leads to a lot of simplification. For example, as sir was saying, CDN is in. Now think of an Akamai. They give WAF, they give identity access management, they give you SSL, they give you CDN, they give you all bus towards the website. Put that on top of your website in the DC premises, and you now have all 4 sites. You can shift data any place. No longer, thinking of a complex network architecture of GSLBs and firewall and NIPS and whatnot. So, this simplification is the way forward.
Great, thanks. Ashutosh, as we hear, and if we agree, in terms of all the enterprises, or most of the enterprises are not following one strategy. So they are having on cloud also, they are having on co-location also, managed services also. So I call it kind of a hybrid IT kind of environment most of the enterprises has got. But when we talk about hybrid IT kind of environment, so what we see is major risks in maintaining the resiliency of your services, because it gets distributed to multiple kind of setups, or multiple set of organizations are responsible for the same kind of services module inside. How will you ensure resiliency of a services in hybrid IT scenario?
So, hybrid environments, cloud and co-location, right? It is a challenging thing to manage, no doubt. In today's world, if you see, right, there is no single interface, uniform interface, not a single, exists today. If it exists, right, then it's the happiest world we can live in. Like you run on Amazon, you run on Azure, you run on NetMagic or whatever it is, right? It is same, uniform APIs. The way you manage your servers, the way you manage your security, the disk and many things, right? It is not. And that is a beauty also. Why? Because you have multiple options to choose from. And it, end of the day, it makes our job relevant. So
choosing is one.
Yeah, so
but you have multiple options available, you choose it on. But how will you integrate, ensure the outcome?
That challenge will remain, and that is the beauty of it, right? So if that is solved, right, then we are not sitting in this room and talking about it. So I'll say that it is both. It's complex. It's not easier to manage hybrid environment at all, because there is no uniform interface. And no one can build it, I tell you, unless this industry collaborate and create the standards like they have done it earlier in the past. It won't happen. So we have to look at from which was mentioned, your requirement, scale, elasticity, security, many other factors we discussed throughout, right? And take your own call. I would say that is the only thing. However, when you define your hybrid cloud strategy, usually MNCs have it. Because this is their requirement. It is not about the cost. It is what they want to ensure their products are being delivered across the world, and supply chain and many things are there, right? They have to ensure. And the law of the land, right? They are different from country to country. And you can't have one size fit to all. So there's no clear answer here, I know, but that is the answer, that find it out this is what we do, right? What is our immediate priority, short-term priority and long-term priority, then we decide and take a call.
Okay, thanks. So can you be able to provide some view on this? How do you maintain resiliency on IT in hybrid IT environment?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you have a limited set of applications, so let's say, as Ashutosh in the last time, I think he said a very good thing, that when you are at a startup, cloud is the best option. Then when you grow, it's more of a hybrid. And the nature of complexity of your hybrid environment increases as you grow into a large enterprise. But like, I might be a little biased because I've always been with very large enterprises, like currently with Natwest. So the hybrid has to be managed in terms of the silos of the application. So there is, let's say, commercial banking. They could be on private cloud, and personal banking could be on AWS. Of course, it's not that easy, and always there will be this problem of not having a common interface, and some things, you have to click on the Athena URL because it's on AWS, and some things are like inside, so you have your local URL. Also, especially in a financial and banking kind of an industry, the security concerns are like very, very large. So right now what we are basically working on at this point is around, where the customers, who want to utilize the data center space, so to say, their applications already sit somewhere in cloud. And now for a particular use case, they want to come here and they want to use this infrastructure. Now, obviously, when they are already on cloud, they don't want to come down back to the ground and then go back up to some cloud target from where they can consume data. So that complexity is also there. I mean, how to, bring things down from a public cloud into a bank environment, and then having your bank data go back to cloud. So I think that's what it is, right? When you are small, you have 2 or 3 major applications that you're dealing with. I think it's more.
This is majorly applicable for large enterprises.
Yeah.
So where you have got huge hundreds and thousands of applications which is running.
Yeah.
So in that scenario, these kind of things.
In that scenario, it's you can kind of categorize your applications in terms of what goes to cloud and how a dedicated channel of access is theirs, which does not interfere with the access channels of things which are on-prem.
Why I'm asking this question is, I think one of the big organizations did some research and they found almost more than 90% of organizations are on a hybrid kind of environment, large enterprises I'm talking about. And only single digit percentage at the organization, they have got a real kind of strategy to manage the resiliency aspect of it. So it is very, very important from the point of view that you grow, and end of the day it becomes more complex, and it becomes very, very important to have that resiliency based approach or strategy to take care of that part.
So there are,
So-
I'll just add one small thing here. So basically, one is the data center service, and then one is the interface with the applications. So we have to start thinking of in terms of how do the hybrid kind of an environment interfaces and try to build a common interface. That's something which we can do, and that's something which we should be thinking towards. It's not that difficult, but typically because of the dynamicity of the business requirements, we never get to that point.
Yeah, so I think we are running out of time also, but there is one important topic what I see. So I just wanted to take 30 minutes of yours view on that. And that is, we hear a lot about AI, artificial intelligence. This is doing that, 50 kilowatt per rack ho jayega, kya karenge? So I just wanted to have your, because end of the day you are the consumers. So 30 seconds, what is the impact of AI on enterprises?
See, of course, without that, now people are not moving, right? So AI was not new, right? And it has been close to 20 years where we are, using. But now it is touching bottom of the people. That's what it has blown in the, the different direction, different dimension, and different impact of what has been, the created. Of course, we have, there's all the automations, right? It's like a mini giant, they have a lot of automations. But how we can connect the ML into, AI, that's what it is, now it is happening. In terms of, if you see the data, in terms of ChatGPT, the 3.0 and then 3.5, but we have a close to 17 to 18 billions of datas. That's what it is a key stuff. See, from the organization standpoint, where we are making a lot of awareness, AI not only feed, right? It will eat also. The people should remember that, right? What are the data just where we are feeding, of course, that takes, and then maybe if you want to browse it something, some organizations, maybe code or something I want to know, I can take it from there also. It is like a give and take policy, right? That's what the current AI follows. So here, just where from organization standpoint, we are building our own private, the AI, how I can leverage the infrastructures. At the same time, we want to give the technology to all the employees also, right? I mean, it is an exciting toy, right? Really, they have to explore some great thoughts, great innovations, and what the best value additions where we can get it. Like we cannot restrict, from the cyber standpoint. So how we can add values, and then we are making amazing project. There's a lot of things. It's in the pilot stage, and within less than a month, we'll be launching for the public also.
Great. Sanjay, quick one.
30 seconds? Okay. So I think one big impact what I foresee is all the routine tasks is going to go away. I think there is a lot of talk about whether it is going to eat up a lot of jobs. I think it is going to transform, right? Anything routine job that we are doing, that I think AI is going to transform. So it's basically, and human is still important part, right? I mean, ultimately whatever we are building, it is all used by human being, right? So it is not that the human is going to be completely eliminated from the overall chain. But as I said, the routine task, like what we want to do is something that is going to be defined by human being. How we want to do it, I think maybe AI will take over, right? Yeah.
Anil?
Okay, sir. So AI for me is something which takes you from break fix to preventive maintenance, because as we move towards preventive maintenance, there are a lot of permutation and combinations that you need to think. It's not always humanly possible to work up all those scenarios. But if I certainly have help from the AI part, we would be more proactive in nature.
Thanks.
I'm not sure how cloud versus on-premise I can relate it, but it's a good servant, good helper if you use it that way. So it helps me a lot on day-to-day basis. I use it a lot, tools, and so that's what I see.
Samarth, you have got any view?
Most of the AI and ML, I think the one thing that I have seen failing, we go down on the ground practically, any AI or ML model needs a lot of historical data to be trained on. So reinforcement engines are there, and of course there are other statistical models, but they are not accurate. Like when we talk about predictive maintenance. I think Anil made the great point that it's not always possible to have conjure up all those scenarios to train your model. I have seen that fail. People start, we'll do predictive maintenance using AI. Why not? But then you need at least, minimum 10,000 records of failures. Wherein at least 10,000 records, where out of that 2,000 should have failed. Where do you get that data? So that is, I think, one of the biggest blockers. And most of the time in data center or in data space, AI is being used more on the data quality side, which can be used more on the statistical, that you can, take the data and check the quality of the data that is passing through. But in terms of the actual capacities and all, I think if that data has been maintained very well at the data center, then it can be used. Otherwise, I think that's a blocker which needs to be worked around, that how to train your model.
Thank you. So, thanks a lot for your inputs. And I would like to just summarize it, and then if time permits, we can go for audience questions. So, as far as whatever inputs which we have got, so there is a adaptation of a co-location, cloud, hybrid cloud, public or private, whatever it is, and there is a shift of enterprises towards adoption of those kind of services and technology. Second aspect is, obviously, whenever you are shifting from one gear to another gear, there are some changes which you have to do inside your organization to align it. So there are organizations that is also being taken care of. Third point is, due to this shift, so obviously, and as the organization grows, the organizations are becoming and finding kind of a hybrid IT kind of a scenario. So there is area where organizations has to work around the resiliency programs or assessment on a regular frequency to find threadware of each applications and services to see where are the issues to be plugged in and taken care of. And the lastly, I just got it from AI inputs, because that's the buzzword we are looking at a lot. And a lot of growth on the data centers are also associated with it. Because when we talk about edge data centers and a lot of others, there are a lot of dependency on these adaptations of AI. So with this, I conclude my session and open for question from audience.
This is Vijay to Sanjay. We have seen cloud push happening last probably a decade, and last 3-4 years, we have seen the adaptation is accelerated more in many of these companies. And now we are also seeing that there is a good part, bad part of cloud, and customers are evaluating to go back to on-prem. What do you think are the major reasons other than cost?
I think one is, I think a lot of people talk about that when I go to the cloud, or when I went to the cloud, my costs went up significantly, right? I think especially for people who have seen the on-prem setup and suddenly they decide to go to the cloud, they even take a lot of garbage as well. Again, this is my view, I could be wrong. I think you have to understand the discipline, right? I mean, how do I manage efficiently and cost effectively my workloads in the cloud? There are, of course, a lot of options available. And I personally started using a lot of them, like, for example, you can use some of the services like Spot, which can optimize your cost. Cast.ai, which is, again, optimization of cost for your Kubernetes workloads. There are n number of tools available in the cloud. So I think maybe for some enterprise, for some of the, maybe setup where they feel that, hey, the cost has gone up significantly and let me move my workloads, or maybe a portion of my workloads to go back to on-prem. But I think, again, the reverse thing will happen again, where once we fully understand how we can efficiently use the cloud, ultimately, I think it is go back to the cloud, in my opinion.
Sanjay, thank you. Touched upon the garbage moving out, right? My question is on that only. Like, when people are moving the cloud journey, a lot of application rationalization to be done. So, Data Center Guru is here. Like to hear from one of you, what are the pre-checks we have to do before we have to move to cloud? or some classic example on the application rationalization, what we can do on those things. If you could share, that will be good.
No, amazing, Dina. Thank you so much for those questions. See, mostly, I mean, when we are just, I'm talking on the both the way, right? From on-prem to cloud and then cloud to on-prem. The specific, most of the things, what it is missing is to understand the organization context. What exactly it is required. It's not only the IT department, not only the development team, not only the DevOps, right? It is across the organizations, how we are consolidating as a business, what it is required. As a CIO, CISO, it's very difficult to understand just one click where we can see that who are all using what kind of cloud, what kind of SaaS services. It's very difficult. It is absolutely, there is no barrier, and then so all those lines are completely blurred. It's completely merged on them. So the first and foremost, it's like assessment of what is the contextual for this organization, which are the departments really we want to go, whether it's a PaaS, IaaS, or maybe the SaaS. That's the first one. Second one, once context is really these are looking for what data. I don't want this entire thing seems to be on the cloud, right? What are the applications? Now the API world, right? What I was saying earlier, during our period, if you want to have it, we need an MPLS link. If you don't have an MPLS link, we cannot transfer data, the volume. Now it is just one plugin of the API, right? How the honeycomb, it may not require to honeycomb, just we have to go to the forest and get it. Now we can put a star. We can take out the entire honeycomb, like wherever you are, right? That's a simple logic. So that's why now which other things can be connected to the API, which other things can be sourced, which other things I can connect to the PaaS. The context of the data which needs to be, the focus from, the end to end. And third point is really how the consistent, right? What are the services you want to run it for the longer or shorter? So that visibility also it should be very clear from, the end to end. So that aspects, of course, we'll talk. These are the top three really, which is most of the organizations we have to look on that.
Hello. Yeah. Hello everyone, I'm Suresh. My question is to Sanjay and Navaneethan. This is with respect to edge computing. Looking at your requirements of low latency and high data, what is the scope and future of edge computing, if you can broadly give an idea?
See, that's a very interesting part, right? I mean, how those people are going on. So maybe specifically, if you want to talk about during the COVID time, where most of the organizations they got into the edge computing. We don't want, because this world may continue on the same way. We may not meet each other on the physical. That's what it is, the perceptions we had it. Everybody, like what are the company they were running on the edge computing, specifically on the virtualizations, it's like they were flying like anything. Wherever you are, just give the login. Maybe all the onboarding it is happening with just login, no physical as well. You have a BOID, wherever you want to log in, you can log in, but ultimately all applications I have virtualized, you can plug in and then get things done. But now after getting into the hybrid mode and all the way, people are getting into the really just, it's computing it is one aspect, but really just people wanted to have the physical hardware also. So whatever it is, the transformation has happened, it is not 100%. Now still, this people are holding, they are very comfortable in terms of instead of holding on the SaaS applications, we're logging into some, like for example, Citrix environment, and I can, upload all the applications. Nowadays transformation is gone. People are looking on something on the local, something on the SaaS based, something on the, in terms of the edge computing, which is specific to the virtual. Now it is we are in a completely hybrid mode. That's what it is ramping up, but it may not be like what we had in COVID. It is, it's a little bit diffused from the concept of what we had it.
Yeah. Hi, this is Mukundraj. I would like to ask a question to Mr. Anil Nama.
Actually, that was the last question. Anybody up for the question again? Okay, this will be the last question, sir. Okay, go ahead, sir. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Okay, so as we have seen that nowadays, every customer is running towards cloud. Okay, and again, they are not happy with that as well. This is what I have heard. So I just wanted to know, so do we have any kind of percentages or maybe kind of things where they are again coming back to the on-premises? Have you seen that kind of thing?
See, I think these points we have discussed, right? Why you are coming back from cloud to the on-premise, it is absolutely. Once you are matured enough for your business, you are matured enough for your applications, right? It's a very simple example. If you want to take it off the cloud alone, So let us say I have a SIM or SOAR, my egress traffic is more, then I'm not the right guy to be there in the cloud, because it's like wherever you touch, there is a cost in cloud. You know, if you want to see, there is a cost. If you want to touch, it's like all the places there's a cost. So ingress traffic cost is more than your application cost. So during that kind of, that's what I'm saying, the contextual of what data, what process, what application, what tech stack, what app stack you have to do the complete calculation. If it is a more egress, then you should not be in cloud. That aspect's really completely, we should move all the things to your on-prem, right? Because that's absolutely your own environment. That's no cost for the egress and then ingress. So that aspect's really, you know, we have to understand your context, then from there we should be able to take it forward.
Thanks, Navaneet. I think time is up. We have, in fact, spilled over our time.
Yep. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for the wonderful persuasive session. The moderator handled it really very well. Thank you so much, Mr. N.K. Singh, founder Datacenter Guru. And I request you to present the best question memento, sir.
Thank you very much for listening, having patience.
I request all the dignitaries to please stay on the back.